Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Crafty Concepts with Erin. I do have a double page scrapbook layout for you today. This is the Backyard Bliss collection. I've already, made a couple layouts with this, so there's bits and pieces as you can see, but I just want to show you kind of a rough overview of the patterns. Now this is a very garden themed collection, but I'm not doing a garden layout today. I'm going to take this and, switch it up for a different look. So let me get these cleared out of the way here and we'll jump right into today's layout. Since we're creating a double page layout, I'm going to bring in two of my Versamats to work on. This will help me keep it in the frame and help me keep all my layers straight. I am going to be building this layout on white daisy, or not white daisy. I'm so used to saying white daisy. This is French vanilla, so it's kind of just an off-white, which is the color that coordinates with this collection. So I've cut several sheets of the pattern paper here, and all of these are 4 3/4 by 10. And I decided on that because I happen to have a scrap that was that size, and I just went with it. So this is my We Are Memory Keepers corner rounder. And I'm going to use the, most swoopy round one. How do you like that description there? And I like to turn it over from the bottom because I can make sure that I have those all lined up. And what I'm going to do is just round the corners. If you're not a fan of rounded corners, and I know some people aren't, you can skip this step and just have the straight edges. But I thought this would be fun just to switch it up. So I'll go ahead and get all of those rounded. In addition to rounding the corners, I'm going to use Mocha ink. This is one of the featured colors in this paper pack, and I love that they put the color palette together for you, and it makes it really easy. And right what color ink pads to grab to complement what you're working with. So I'm going to do the same thing to each of the 4 of these pieces and just define the edges a little bit with this Mocha ink here. What I'm thinking is we're going to repeat this pattern, and then we'll go with the florals, and then this one again, and then the wood grain. And now, since these are 10 inches, we know we can use our Versamat. We want 1 inch on the bottom and 1 inch on the top, and then they'll be perfectly centered top to bottom there, and then we can get this side lined up as well. It's always fun to bring in a T-square ruler and check yourself. Yep, look at that, spot on. Perfect. And it's really nice because the Versamat has a lip on it, so it'll catch your ruler and you can keep that nice and secure. I have 4 different photos to document on today's layout. So this is my son, my oldest son, and his girlfriend. We were on a trip to Italy and we were wine tasting in Tuscany. And I took the opportunity to just have them pose for this little photo shoot because there was a swing there and it was just really beautiful. So these are my favorite photos. And then I have a couple more photos I'll be including that really tell the story behind the story, kind of a thing, and really capture their relationship and their personalities. So these 2 are 4 by 6, and then I have a 3 by 4, and this is a 3 by 3. So what I'm thinking is maybe just roughly kind of like this. And I like to do different sizes because this gives you nooks and crannies for titles and embellishment clusters. I can already see these don't stand out against the background very well. So I cut some photo mats from Sapphire because that is a featured color in the paper pack. You can see sapphire and the little flowers in this particular pattern paper. And yes, that definitely makes a big difference, doesn't it? I cut a couple strips from this grass pattern paper, and these are 1 1/4 by 12. And we have a lot of columns running vertically. So this is going to provide, it's going to break it up, running this horizontal, and also act as an anchor, kind of a resting spot or a landing spot for my photos here. And I'm going to overlap my pictures just a bit onto the green grass paper there, just like so. For my title, I pulled out these pieces here, and they say Love Grows Here. Now those are from the July-September catalog, and I've got the page marked here. I want to show you the whole sheet. It looks just like this. So they're die cut and they're paperboard, but they have that faux wood grain look. And there's some, you can see the title up top. It says Love Grows Here. And there's all sorts of little banners and tabs and flowers and different things like that to add to your layouts. So I thought this would be really cute and a very appropriate title. And I'm putting this on this particular pattern paper because I don't think it would show up on, yeah, you can see how it just kind of disappears into that background. So this is going to be perfect. So I'm going to have love span across the top here, and then we'll put grows here, if I can pick it up, underneath, just like so. I feel like that can stand out more, so let's just add a little bit of that same Mocha ink to the edges, and I bet you that's going to give it a little contrast and have that pop off the background a little bit better. Sometimes it's hard to get these little inside nooks and crannies, but just do your best, right? So let's see. Oh yeah, that makes a big difference. Can you see that? Another thing you can do is take a marker. You just want one that is the coordinating color, and you can get into those tiny little spots down there where the ink blending foam won't reach, and then that'll just finish off those edges. I feel like someone might call me out on that and suggest it could ruin your marker tips, and you know, it might, it could. I have been doing it a long time and have never had an issue. I'm super light-handed with it, and I'm using kind of this, the side of the base of the marker and not the tip. So just something to be mindful of. I want to add a few more elements from those same die cut shapes. I'm going to tuck this up above the photo and have half of it peeking out. And then there's these really cute banners. So I thought this little swoopy element below the photos would look really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and dry fit them here. I'm going to make some floral embellishments with the layered flower dies. So I'm going to use the leaf die, and then I'm going to use this smaller one here, and I think primarily this one, and make a couple flowers using colors from this color palette. Here's a little tip for you. Layer 2 pieces of paper and die cut 2 at once. You can try 3 depending on your machine. It doesn't always cut through with mine, so I tend to stick to 2 and get 2 for 1. So I have a whole bunch of bits and pieces. I'm going to show you really quick how I put these together. So like I said, I cut 2 at once, so that makes it super easy, and I'm just going to roll up the edges to give these a little bit of shape and dimension, and then glue them together, offsetting them. So there is a top layer for this flower too. I'm just using the base layer and, like I said, offsetting it. But yeah, these layered flowers are so fun because you can get so many different looks. And then we're going to use shortbread and then white daisy on top to create our flower center. And then I have a couple foam dots I'm going to add to this layer here to give it a little bit of lift and shadowing. So these are the tiny foam dots. Those do come in 2 different sizes, and I tend to use up all the big ones first, and then I make myself use the little ones. But then we'll put that right in the center. And then for this one, they're both the sapphire color. I don't know if you can see the contrast there. Look, I've got ink on my hands. That looks terrible. But I used the light side for the front and then the dark side for the back layer. And I'm just going to put glue around the outside. And there's a very obvious little, you know, petal here that makes that super easy to line up. And with liquid glue, it just slides right into place. And then we have a bunch of leaves to incorporate also. To simplify the embellishing process, I want you to think of the visual triangle. These are papaya colored flowers. That is the boldest color on my layout. And by placing those in that triangle formation, I just really draw your eye across the layout. Now I'm going to add supporting pieces to the embellishment cluster. I'm actually going to cut these leaves down so they're a little bit easier to work with, and I can use the leaves independently. So I have shortbread and sapphire flowers, and I'm going to repeat those same colors in each cluster. They don't have to be matchy-matchy. Not each cluster has to be the same, but you do want to introduce those colors and textures for just a very balanced look. I should let you guys know that these layered flower thin cuts are on the retiring list. I know, I'm so sad. I wish they weren't going. I mean, I'm still going to use mine because I love them. But if you have these on your wish list, you have till the end of August, and then they are retiring. So just something to make note of. In the catalog, there is, in the same Backyard Bliss line, there's this card making stamp. It's actually called Backyard Bliss Card Making Stamp and Thin Cuts. And I was just thinking, because of the swing, this might look really cool on the layout. So let's give it a try. So I'm going to bring in my all-purpose mat just so I have a nice surface to work on. This is going to protect my desk. The back side of this is grippy so it doesn't move around on you, and then this is wipeable. So it's perfect for anything messy or mixed media, or if you just want to protect your background. Just to make my life a little easier, I'm going to use my little Misty Mini, and then we have our stamp set here. So this piece of paper is a 3 1/4 by 3 3/4, and we're going to stamp the background here. So I'm going to use the little rolling hills here and position that probably right about, I'm thinking there. So you just want to close the Misty door, pick up your stamp, make sure that's still in the corner. Sometimes the stamp can cling to it. Now I'm going to be coloring this in, so I want to use a ink that isn't going to bleed when we get it wet. So we have the intense black ink, and we're going to ink this up really well. Make sure we get nice coverage here, but then, if we don't, we can always restamp it, because that is the benefit of having a stamp positioner. So that's looking pretty good, but let's go ahead, and I want those lines really nice and defined. So we'll do that one more time and give it a good press here. Perfect. So that does take a little bit to dry before, we color it. So I like to just clean up as I go. I have my little stamp chamois here. In the new core catalog, they have a case for this, and I'm excited to get it just because it's cute. For now, I'm using a little Tupperware here, but the case would be nice and flat so you could have it open and then just rub your stamps on it too. So I think it's going to be handy for that. Now we're going to repeat the process with our tree. So this one here, we're going to die cut this particular piece out. So you just want to make sure your paper is large enough to accommodate your stamp. And remember, when you use your die cut, it's going to give it a little bit of a margin. So when you're placing that on your paper, you want to make sure that there's room to die cut all the way around. Secure that with the magnet and pick that up with our Misty door. Then we're just going to repeat the same process, inking it up again with our intense black ink so we can color this in. I'm going to use a little bit of our Spectrum Noir TriBlend markers, but I'm also going to use my water brush and the ink colors. So we're going to do a little bit of both. Now that actually looks pretty good, so I do not need to re-ink that one there. I'll get this cleaned up and then put my stamps away. Do you guys clean up as you go, or you just create like an epic mess and then pick it up at the end? Sometimes I try to clean as I go because I actually don't have a very big craft space, and I start losing things. So when that happens, it's definitely time to clean up. And the scissors are the first thing to go, and then the tape runner seems to be always missing. So these have had time to dry. We're going to work on our piece in the background first. So for the sky, I have sapphire ink, and then for our hills, I've selected New England ivy, shortbread, pine, and sage. You will also need a water brush and a little paper towel or something to clean it in between. And then I'm going to use a craft brush for my sky because this puts the color on really soft and light. Now I want to show you guys, close to my heart, and their new core catalog has these same blending brushes, and they're so soft and just really nice to use. They are all, they do have black handles, so what I'm going to do is label the color on the back. But for now, I'm using my blue because I already had this one, so it makes sense to keep it with its color family. Let me slide these out of the way, and we're going to use sapphire to add a little color to our sky here in the background. Now, this can be a really deep, rich color, but by using the blending brushes, it's easy to apply that lightly and nice and soft. I always start off of my paper and then blend on to the background here. I'm avoiding the area where the hills are because we're going to color those in, and we just want the sky. When you're done, wipe up that ink with a damp paper towel so you don't mix it into your other ink blending brushes. Now what you want to do is squeeze the ink tray together, and then you can see it deposits that ink on the lid, and it makes a little tray. So when you grab your water brush and just add a little bit of water, you can paint with the ink colors. Now I did stamp my image onto white daisy cardstock, so if you use too much water, you can, mess it up. There is watercolor paper that you can try this technique on as well for a different look. So just be mindful of how much water. Now you see me wiping up that excess water from my tray because you don't want to put all that water into your ink pad when you close it. So that was New England ivy. Now I'm using pine for this second hill in the back here. I thought this stamped image was just so perfect because it's truly what it looked like where we were in Tuscany. These just rolling hills with vineyards, just absolutely gorgeous. For the little hill in front here, I'm going to use the shortbread color, and I'm going to take that all the way down to the corner, even though it's not stamped there. And then for the last hill, I'm going to use the sage color. This is a really quick way to add color to your stamped images. It's super simple, and these water brushes allow you to get in tiny little areas too. I don't show it on camera, but I colored the leaves in with water, the water brush as well. Now this is the pale pink shades marker, and I'm using the marker because these are super tiny and those nice bullet tips get into the tiny little nooks and crannies, and that finishes off our swing here. Isn't that cute? I'm going to cut this out with a coordinating die, and I love that it cuts out the center of the swing. So I'm going to adhere this to pine colored cardstock to add a little bit of border of color, and then this is going to border the opposite side. Now I was going to put foam tape on the back of this, but the ropes going down to the swing are pretty tiny, and you'd really have to cut that foam tape. So I just decided to cut extra die cut pieces of the same image, and I'm gluing those together, and this is going to, when you use liquid glue, you just slide them into place, and it gives you that lift and dimension without having to squeeze foam tape into those tiny little areas. This Barely Art Precision Craft Glue has a really fine tip that is perfect for those little areas as well. Stay tuned to the end because I do have a couple cards to share with you that I made with this collection. So I was going to put my journaling over in this area on the right here, but I really wanted to incorporate this, so it's going to fit in this spot perfectly, and I'll find another way to add my journaling. With the Backyard Bliss die cuts, there is this super cute little picket fence. So I'm going to cut a tiny piece and adhere that right over the base of my stamped image. And that's going to draw that faux wood look all the way over to the right-hand side. Since we were wine tasting, I want to add this little wine barrel. So this is from the Backyard Bliss card making workshop. So you get the entire kit to make 4 different designs, 16 cards, but there is this little wine barrel and then a wheelbarrow, all sorts of cute things. So I'm going to use this to create an embellishment for this layout. Let me set this aside, and then I'll bring in a piece of foam and some more vanilla cardstock because that's what we've been working on. So I have the stamp already mounted to a block, and again I'm using intense black ink because I'm going to color this in with my Spectrum Noir TriBlend markers. So we'll get that nice and inky, stamp it onto our vanilla cardstock, and that looks good. So again, give it a second to dry before you color it. I have the Muted Brown Blend Spectrum Noir TriBlend marker. Now, there are lots of ways to color. So what I like to do is start with the darkest color first and end up with the lightest color. Some people like to do it the other way around. It's just personal preference. I recommend you practice and see what works best for you. But I like to lay down the shadows. And whenever you are working with a rounded object, at least for me, I feel like it really helps, emphasize that dimension and the roundness if you put the darkest colors on the outside edge and then the lightest in the center. So using flick-like motions, I'm coming from the outside in towards the center. I started with the darkest and then came in a little bit further with the medium, and now I'm coloring in the center with the lightest color. Now this tip I learned from my friend Carrie over at Miss Carrie's Creation. She taught me that if you use the brown, there's a brown gray blend and an ice gray blend. So if you're using the warmer tones, you should use the brown gray, and it just adds an even further, depth to the shades of our muted brown that we colored our barrel in. So again, I'm just adding that to the very edge because I want to emphasize that shadowing around the edges of my barrel. I'm going to go back over that with my lightest muted brown just to blend everything in. And then let me add a little color to the top here. I'm going to use the brown gray blend to color in the metal bands on our wine barrels, and then I'll hold this up for you here in just a moment so you can see what that looks like a little bit closer. It's hard to appreciate on camera, but it looks so cool when you have all that shading, and just you see how it just kind of brings those images to life. Now I went and die cut this, and what's really cool is it cuts a slit in the top of the barrel. I stamped and colored the floral bouquet off camera just to save a little time, but it looks so cute tucked into the top of that barrel. And then I'm just going to add it to this embellishment cluster along with this sticker from the coordinating sticker sheet that says, "Do all things with love." This heart shape was left over on my desk from another project, and it matches and goes along with the theme. So I thought, yeah, why not? I'm going to work it into this embellishment cluster over here. So I'm going to add a little liquid pearls here, but I want to do that last. I still have a few more photos to add. Now these are the behind the scenes photos, and I don't know if you can see the expression on my son's face, and his girlfriend Desiree is like trying to explain it, and it was literally like, "You want me to do what?" I mean, he's an 18-year-old boy and he was being a really good sport, but it was just too funny. And then this one, she's shoving him into this giant pot. So these, like I said, kind of behind the scenes, and I thought they were really funny. So what I'm going to do is I want this one to be on top. So I'm going to mat this photo on the back. And let me just grab my adhesive. It's disappeared. There it is. So we'll add a little bit of adhesive and get this matted right on here. Now, actually, it's important because the flip-flap's going to flip up, so this one would be upside down. So you want to make sure you're orienting that in the correct direction. And so I'll put this one here, and then this one is going to go on the actual layout. Hopefully that makes sense. So this one will be adhered here, and then these will be in the flip-flap, and you want the opening, you want the top to close over the opening. So I'm going to put it in here just like this, and then that'll fold over, and this will adhere to the outside of the page protector and flip up and reveal these funny photos and the story inside. So let's go ahead and put those liquid pearls on. Always test them on a piece of scratch paper first so you don't get like some giant blob. And I also want to make sure that the color is going to work well. Liquid pearls are so easy to use, but then you can mess them up really easily too. So always do them last and make sure you give them time to dry. I connected my little banner elements. I know it's not standing out on camera very well. And then I'm going to add a few dots in a triangle. So 3 dots in a triangle formation in each cluster. And I'm going to call it done. I added a lot of extra little details into this layout, but I like it. I think it all came together, and the stamping was super fun to do to create that little scene. But do you see how it just matches the background and the photos perfectly? I had to use it, right? If you found this video helpful, I would love it if you gave it a big thumbs up. Tap that thumbs up button and it lets YouTube know that you are enjoying the content, and YouTube will share more content like this with you, so it's a win-win. Here's a few more cards I created with this same collection. This one I turned into a shaker, and I just used a circle to cut out the window in the seed packet there, and I thought that was really fun. You can see the still shots over on my Instagram, Facebook, or Pinterest account, and those will be listed in the description box below, along with everything I used to create today's layout. Here's a few more videos to inspire you. Thank you so much, guys. I'll catch you next time.